Welcome to the July 1, 2014 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. We have to start every meeting by telling you that the meeting's being recorded. Although I'm not quite sure who we're telling that to, because we've got two people in the audience and they know. So, but anyway.
We've been here before.
It is being recorded. And we're going to take a moment for appreciation of our servicemen and women serving in Afghanistan. Thank you. And we'll start with our 7 o'clock appointment, who was canceled, so we'll...
I spoke to him, and when he found out that there was some concern about putting it on the old dump, I told him that selectmen had voted to authorize it for a couple of weeks, but he said, well, there are probably other sites in town where we could do it. So I said, if you want me to take you around town someday this week and show you different places where I thought would be appropriate, and so he said, fine.
Oh, good. Okay.
He did send a copy of a letter that he received from the head of the trustees of reservations to the selectmen of Walpole, reiterating their policy that they wouldn't allow chemical application of pesticides. So apparently the discussions haven't gotten too far, it would appear. So.
Yeah.
And the issue that, just to recap, that he was going to come and talk to us about was a request to locate some beehives on town land.
It was an experiment. They wanted to see how bees, whether bees are affected by applications of pesticides, I guess. So they were just going to spray some around the beehives and see if they had any reaction to it. So.
Can I just get back to the other part of that with the trustees of reservations not changing their policy? Is there anything else we can do or our Board of Health can do? I'm just concerned, we missed the spring spraying on their property already, correct? And there's another one, I believe, coming up. And as we get, into the latter part of the summer and into the fall, that's when we see the cases of Triple E and Eastern Equine encephalitis and things like that. And I'm just very concerned on that. Is there anything ahead of time that we might be able to do now before we get...
There is some legislation that's being considered that would allow city and town employees to apply pesticides to catch basins and other areas, but whether that will pass or not.
But not on trustee property?
No, as far as I know, there's no change in that policy, so. The only thing is if the state declares an emergency, State Department of Public Health, then they can spray anywhere, aerial spraying anywhere, and they can use pesticides for that. What the Norfolk County Mosquito Control was trying to avoid that situation by using a biological application of larvicide so that they would have to spray pesticides.
Do they declare statewide, or is it by county, or?
Usually it can be by region. It can be statewide, yeah. For example, you may remember a couple years ago, there was, I think down around Middleborough, east in that area, they had a couple of cases.
County, that type of thing? It's not...
I think it was Bristol, Plymouth in that area, yeah. So they allowed spraying down there. But they keep pretty close tabs on it. They do weekly sampling of mosquitoes, and then they get reports from hospitals if they have any detectable cases. So.
All set, Richard?
I am, thank you.
Under our action calendar, vote to authorize me to sign an appropriation transfer for inspectional department in the amount of $700, and this has to do with monies that were appropriated for last fiscal year and haven't been spent, I gather.
Right. This is one of those transfers that they allowed interdepartment between budgets.
Right.
But it has to be approved by both a vote of the warrant committee and a vote of the Board of Selectmen. And it can't be greater than, I believe is it $5,000 or 3% of the budget?
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Next, we have a request to vote to authorize me and the town administrator to sign a contract to authorize expenditures for energy manager grant.
And that's this contract right here, which you're familiar with because you came in the other night to sign it, but that's That's the one you signed the other night.
Yeah. And this is the grant that comes from the Department of Energy Resources, and the first year it's $50,000, the second year it's $25,000, and Mike was good enough to get that grant for the town.
And we'll be putting together a advertisement for the job description, so. I understand a couple of the town, Medway and Millis, have filed a joint application, and they have an ad in this week, so.
Good.
And then the third year, we pick up the...
Third
the
year,
grant,
it's,
right?
you're on your own, yeah. But the idea with this is to try to develop this position into a facilities manager to take charge of the buildings and.
Excellent.
Do we need a motion on that?
We do.
I move to authorize Chairman Peterson and Town Administrator Mike Sullivan to authorize the expenditure for the Energy Manager Grant
And to sign the contract.
and to sign the contract.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Next, we're asked to vote to sign an agreement with consulting services for facility condition assessment with a company called C3 in the amount of $19,500. This is from the former State Hospital Advisory Committee, where they are having C3 look at the condition of 4 buildings that are sort of a range, thought to be a range of poor to better condition up at the State Hospital.
And would you like a motion on that also?
Yes, please.
I move that we sign the agreement for consulting services for facility condition assessment with the company C3 in the amount of $19,500.
But I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we are asked to vote to authorize me to sign Massachusetts School Building Authority's initial compliance certificate form for the Wheelock School. This is for the boilers.
Nice job on that, with Mike and the superintendent and others. There's about a 40% savings, is that what I understand?
Yes,
Expensive
it
boilers,
was
too.
interesting. It has to be signed by the chairman of the school committee, the superintendent, and the chairman of the selectmen. And I was pointing out to Chris that if you look at that letter, it's addressed to me rather than the superintendent. And that's because by state law, school buildings are not under the care and control of the school committee. They are under the Board of Selectmen's care and control, and
The
that's
physical building?
physical buildings. You are responsible for building, maintaining.
Learn something new every day.
Didn't know
school
that.
That's
buildings.
interesting. Let's come up with a reuse plan for them.
Yeah, I know.
I think the reason for that is it lowered the school budget,
Yeah.
per capita student cost years ago when they did that. So.
Yeah.
But this is a statewide policy.
Yeah.
This is not just Medfield.
Yeah.
And that's why it's addressed
To you.
to me, because I'm your representative.
I move to authorize Chairman Peterson to sign the Massachusetts School Building Authority's initial compliance certificate form for the Ralph Wheelock School.
I'll second that.
Any
By the-
further?
By the way, I went through this with the superintendent yesterday, and you virtually have to sign your life away. I mean, the things they put in there, you have to develop a fraud and waste management written policy and plan.
Put a couple of boilers in.
Some of the other things in here are just crazy.
Good
Oh,
news is
you-
that our fraud plan is probably the same as the last time we submitted stuff to the school building assistants, so we can just photocopy it. and
I hope
attach
we
it.
have one that we can copy. You also have to have a certified public purchasing official for design and construction contracting, which is different. Chris is a certified purchasing agent for 30B, which is goods and services, but this is for construction. So fortunately, the new school business manager who started today, incidentally, or whatever, I think is director of finance and operations, he is
Certified.
one, and he's getting his recertification this September, so that
Great.
worked out. But there's all kinds of conditions in this and the energy grant.
Yeah.
If you ever read it, you probably would never sign them. It's just, but they're,
It is their money, so they get to tell us a lot of things, I
it's,
guess.
yeah, I always say it's our money because we're residents of
Really is our money.
Massachusetts. It is.
It's my money.
We turn control over to them, and they think
Yep.
it's theirs now. So, all in favor of the
Aye.
school building authority?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, what will happen on that, the school department has to work with the School Building Assistance Authority to develop a plan. The project manager and the designer, if they have designers of boilers, those are selected for the town by the School Building Assistance Authority.
Okay, that's good.
So there's no say in who's picked, they pick them for you.
Yeah.
And then the design funds have to be provided by the school department. So they are taking the money out of their budget to design the boilers.
Yeah.
And then you will have to, superintendent told me there's 2 periods that you will have to appropriate the full amount of money within 60 days after these 2 periods, and I believe the second one is around December 1st, so you have to appropriate the money by January
Yeah.
31st, which means you'll need to put an article on the special town meeting warrant if they have a warrant for the public safety building.
Yeah, to do this too.
Or, unless they can work out something different, unless there's a lot of communities are affected by this, you may have to call a special town meeting
meeting.
to appropriate the money.
Yeah.
Because you have to have the full amount appropriated within 60 days from this.
Yeah.
There's 2 dates, but that's the final date.
What's the total amount?
Well, the total amount they applied for, the estimate was $300,000, but they have to design it, so
Settle through.
it could go higher, it could go
It's
lower.
engineering.
higher.
It's the same way as you can't just replace a roof, you have to bring in an engineering firm it's the state public construction law.
Right.
Is that 300,000 not including the 40%?
Well, the way it works, it's a reimbursable program, so you have to spend the 300.
And they
I
reimburse you?
believe, yeah, it's my understanding, it's a 40% reimbursement, so.
Which, in hindsight, makes the reimbursement we got for the 3 schools we did 10, 15 years ago look really good, because that was 63%.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
So, next, we are asked to vote to sign parking license agreement with Roach Brothers and the library trustees.
This is an updated version of the agreement that you had previously with Lords. I've been back and forth with Roach Brothers' attorney and tweaked some language, primarily with the library trustees, but there's one element, I believe, having to do with maintenance that required the selectmen, or taxes, I forget exactly, but why the selectmen are signing. You signed the previous one, earlier one as well. So if you would, the library trustees have already signed it. I just became aware of that today. So if you can sign it, then I'll get it back to Roach Brothers' attorney, and he and the landlord will sign it, and then we'll get copies back.
Great. Excellent.
Can I just summarize, and correct me if I'm wrong, as I looked at that? It basically is a very similar document that we had with the Kellys, with the exception that the town no longer is going to be responsible for the maintenance, that Roach Brothers would take that up, and also for the plowing. So the town will no longer do that. And as far as parking, residents will be able to park there that are using the library. The stipulation, however, on staff and someone that's going to be there the entire day would not park there. Is that
Right.
correct? And they would be able to terminate that, I believe, a 30-day notice if they wanted to change something.
The other one was as well as a license. So if it turned out that they really needed the parking back there, then that's their option.
Right.
And the flip side is library patrons, as has been the case right along, are not supposed to park anywhere but back there,
Right.
as far as that property goes. So that might be something that gets more rigorously enforced, again, depending on
Yeah.
Roach Brothers' own needs for parking.
Incidentally, one of the construction personnel working on the project came over yesterday, and he said they're going to be removing one of the lamp posts along the walkway from the library to the parking lot. It's the one down at the back, because they're putting a row of lights similar but not identical to what the town has there. So that lamppost belongs to the town, so they will deliver it to the town when they remove it. But in case you get calls about anyone, about taking a light, it's part of their plan. It's been approved by the planning board.
Took one of the lights, yeah.
I'm just thankful that Roach Brothers was willing to work with the town. I mean, that's something they didn't have to do, and that's a key, because if we lost that, there really is not really space available, you know, especially senior citizen stuff that use that library to cross the street and stuff. So it's good Roach Brothers is already being a good neighbor like that.
Or even young mothers that have carriages.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I move that we sign the acceptance of the parcel, no, I move that we sign the parking license agreement with Roach Brothers and the library trustees.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
And the rumor is they're still going to be, try to aim for an opening in July. So, we'll see.
Wow.
Couple weeks then, good.
We're working fast over there.
Wow.
As long as we're touching on parking, I have a fear that parking in the downtown is going to become a problem for us in the not-too-distant future. I mean, the McCready's with their building, they're looking to put in uses that are going to far exceed the ability of the site to provide the required parking. Are you guys finding the municipal lot is full all the time now, or is there spaces available?
No, well, like, you know, since Master's Touch moved out, they took up a lot of parking space in there, and that was a big factor, so it's been relatively easy since then. I think you're right, that will be a problem, and
Recognizing that, Sarah initiated a downtown parking study that's in the
good.
final stages of being completed, and Mr. McCready also contributed to that study
Nice.
Excellent.
with the anticipation of his building opening.
Yeah,
Good.
So we should have that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, good.
I think at some point you're probably going to have to deck that parking lot across the street back here and put a second level in, so.
Put a
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
level on it?
Yeah, you could relatively easy do that and almost double your parking spaces,
Yep.
because it is kind of
It's
in a natural
sloping down,
hollow.
yeah.
so
Yep.
Yeah, but that'd be
very
expensive.
noticeable.
He said
It
about $1
would
million
be.
is what McCready thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing compared to constructing a new garage.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's some way down the road that would be available for state funding or something of a downtown economic, or...
If you, I believe the President of the Senate got a couple of them in the budget for Plymouth last couple of years.
That was just coincidence.
So, yes. That's possible. The other thing to do, there is a provision that you can set up some sort of a special taxing district and have people contribute to a special benefit like that. So there are options aside from the property tax.
But I think you're right. If you-
People, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, if you look at a long-range plan, I think that's something that has to be on the agenda.
I think it is something that we should be trying to come up with a solution for.
The third and final and an anathema to small towns would be to meter the parking lot.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Right.
not go there. That's,
Right.
yeah,
It's the third way of paying for
yeah.
it.
It's nasty. Be just like Wellesley. Yeah.
But you might be able to work out an arrangement with businesses that don't have enough parking and you anticipate to use it regularly, whereby they would make some sort of, basically pay for rental of spaces or whatever. There's some flexibility there.
Is that, you have to do that on a voluntary basis, Mark?
Yeah.
Is that what you were suggesting, Mike, or were you suggesting some sort of parking
There's a-
cost when people do development?
There's a special parking, a taxing district, a special benefit taxing district you can set up. I'm not sure, do you know, Chris, is that voluntary or does that,
No, I think if you set up the district, it
you can
goes,
set up a
applies to everybody.
district and it has to be approved by town meeting, I would assume, and they will get a special assessment for some benefit particular to that taxing district.
Sure.
So then you take that money and you use it to build the garage that you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be the special benefit. There were other things you could do, you know, you could do trees and streetlights and that sort of thing, but there has to be some agreement as to what's going to be done with the money.
Yeah. Well, I think it is an issue that we should try to figure out a plan for, because I think it's staring us in the face.
Obviously, if you've got somebody going through a process going forward, and they don't have, in the downtown hypothetically, they may have no parking on site. And you could arguably say you're gonna significantly increase downtown, and we basically can say no to you unless you come to terms to allow us to remediate the problem, and that's where you get into a negotiation to get funding or contribution towards funding. The same way as there's been, well, I know of issues in surrounding towns where roads areas were congested and additional shopping centers were proposed, and they said to the developers, we've got a failed road already, what are you prepared to do to help us ameliorate this problem? And again, it's a negotiable thing,
Isn't that what we tried to do with the car wash and the judge threw it out?
only because of the way it was done.
They offered.
Well, no, actually, in that case, the judge was wrong, frankly. I didn't take an active role in the court case, and it was an abutter that raised the issue, and the abutter had no standing to raise the issue. The developer, had they been forced to do it, could have raised the issue, but they didn't. They agreed to do it voluntarily. So the whole thing was acceptable. But the judge ruled as she did. So we simply had the work all done before they went back to the ZBA. It was a side agreement, so the ZBA didn't make it a condition, and so there was no cause to object the second time around.
Oh,
This is
good.
on the car wash down the street there.
Glad to hear that, because I wrote that decision.
It's interesting, with some of these things that we're doing, no, I forgot what I was saying, you threw my train of thought
Well,
out.
you brought that up in the first place.
Yeah, but we were talking about the downtown, you know, some of the things the downtown district committee and the cultural district committee are talking about are walkable downtowns.
Sure.
Where the idea is you park someplace and walk. You don't
Yeah.
hop in the car and drive from one place to another, you walk between. And if you look at that on the outskirts, I mean, there's usually plenty of parking down on North Meadows Road. There's, depending on the time of day,
Right.
there's parking here. There's usually parking on the streets.
Oh, yeah.
So if you think of it in those terms, it might not be the parking crisis we think of. It's,
Okay.
I remember an architect, when we were doing the town hall, their initial planning, and one of the architects said, I know people say there's a parking problem in Medfield, but I've never not been able to find a parking space in Medfield. I just can't find one right outside the door.
Which is
I
what
might have
everybody
to walk
wants,
200
yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it.
And especially
too.
that's what the businesses want. They want the spaces right in front of their businesses available so that the people will come to their business.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
people won't walk that far. They won't park and walk 2 blocks.
Yeah, because they got to get to the gym and exercise.
Right. Too busy. Next item is, we're asked to vote to sign town acceptance of parcel voted at the 2014 annual town meeting located in the vicinity of Pine Street, map 66, parcel 011.
I move to sign, have the town sign the acceptance of the parcel so voted at the 2014 annual town meeting located in the vicinity of Pine Street on map 66, parcel 011.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is this the one that has to be witnessed by a notary?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
so
the
I
one-
red.
just want you to
Yeah.
all acknowledge that you've so voted that, and you're going to sign as your free act indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yes.
notarize it when it makes its way back to me.
Next, under licenses and permits, Zulu Gallery requests a 1-day wine and malt beverage permit for the first Thursday in July and August, beginning July 17. First Thursday in July, beginning, that's not the first Thursday, but that's okay. And also first Thursday in September, October, November, and December.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yep. Medfield State Hospital status update.
I just have a couple of things. I'm actually meeting on site tomorrow with Water and Sewer to walk the water tower survey. The land has been flagged, so we're going out there to walk the 6-acre parcel.
Nice.
So
Nice.
we'll do that in the morning.
What time is that?
9 o'clock.
9. Up at the water tower.
We're meeting at the guards at the front, at the gate. There's some things to go over before we do the actual walk. And I don't think everybody's actually going on the actual walk. Some people are just going to the pre-meeting before the walk. And then there's a meeting at, right now it's 9:30. The time may change to be a little later, but right now it's 9:30 between John O'Donnell and Ken Feeney to coordinate, finalize their coordination on the Hospital Road water main project.
Oh, good. Good.
Monday. And I just spoke to John a little while ago, and he apologizes. I know there were some emails that went to him over the last week and a half. He's been on vacation. He just got back, and he will get to those very soon.
And for those who might not know, Odyssey House is gone.
Yeah.
Doesn't take long, huh? Once you
Oh,
get
it's
going.
amazing. huh?
Yep.
All the time it takes to put up a building in a couple of days, it's gone.
Yep.
so.
Did you say they're seeding that, so it's going to be a field?
I don't know if they're going to seed it, but they put down a nice thick layer of loam, which I was impressed by. I wouldn't have expected they would have done that, but
Yeah, usually they do throw ryegrass or something in there,
so
so
that,
it'll take.
I mean,
them,
what,
yeah.
given how
Yep.
good
So
the
they-
soil looks,
They filled that
it
whole area and leveled it and...
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
great.
debris pile there. When I saw it, there was still some debris that needed to get removed. Some concrete pieces. Anything else,
And
Chris?
that's all I have right now.
Thank you very much.
Is that the last of the property you guys negotiated to have the state on their expense takedown? It is, yeah. Nice job on that as far as the negotiation, because that saved the town a bundle.
Probably
Yeah.
maybe about $100,000.
Plus a lot of aggravation.
It
You
was.
know,
Yeah.
town aggravation.
Nice freeze up that whole piece of land there.
Yeah.
too, so
Yeah.
that's very
Done, yeah.
Did we ever find out, Bill, why they went back and forth on being willing to demolish it? Because they agreed at first, and then they decided not to, and
I have a theory, but I'll tell you offline. It's-
another time, all
It
right.
was Mass Historical that actually got involved with that, wasn't it? Isn't that why they were held up a little bit?
They were involved for a while, but that, I think, separate and apart from Mass Historic,
Oh.
DCAM decided not to do it for a while.
Incidentally, speaking of the water tower project, the contractor doing the water mains has started assembling and will begin work up there, I believe, this week. They have already put some of their equipment and I understand their porta potty up there.
Excellent.
They've
That
begun
means they're
work
all set
already,
once they
yeah,
get the
they're-
porta
Yes,
potty
they-
in.
Begun work, yeah.
He's trying to
yeah.
work out a licensing agreement to have a staging area on the state hospital property, but
Yeah.
we're helping him complete that license application.
But that should move along quite quickly, because water
As
mains
soon as he
are...
finishes his license application.
Yes, yes.
I want to thank Ken on that. I see, and we have the pile, the letter that he put out to the folks along Hospital Road, letting them know as far as that good neighbor policy, so thanks to Ken on that.
And Maureen, I assume,
Oh,
more than
okay.
Ken.
And there'll be a second follow-up letter delivered to houses on the days that they will have no water, so they will know in advance when, no water actually, when the water will be shut off.
Good. Thank you
So
for
it'll be
doing that.
Two notices that have gone out.
Good.
So there will be days when there will be no water?
Certain houses will have no water on for a certain amount of time during the day, and they'll be notified ahead of time.
Oh, okay. Under pending, we have railroad tracks at Farm Street and Harding Street.
And we're still working on that. I understand we have to look into whether the railroad ties are hazardous waste and will have to be removed by hazardous waste
course they will.
licensed.
Oh, yeah. They'll come hazmat
transporter.
suits
I know,
and
does that
So-
surprise you? I mean, that's just,
Everything's hazardous. Everything does.
Well,
Nothing's
they-
ever easy, huh?
Yeah, all the railroad ties were creosoted, I think, so they are.
Sure.
Yes, that's
creosote
why, and
is
that's
hazardous.
considered, yeah, yeah. I
Although they've
think
been
they
sitting
have
there
a place
forever, it
in
doesn't matter.
Pennsylvania or something where they take it into and they somehow treat them and
Really? Yeah.
move them and grind them up or something.
School
Stuff also
playgrounds,
is
grind 'em
leached
up.
into the ground, which is why, when you deal with them, they basically wash their hands of any liability for any kind of environmental issues on their property.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that we have taken the two tracks, because there's no ties in the road, they're all tarred over.
So the-
It's two metal, it's not as simple as just taking those out and tarring it over.
Well, the ties are
Underneath.
underneath the
So you have
tracks.
to dig up and get the ties
Yeah.
as well out, not just
Yeah.
the rails.
Right, yeah, yeah. Because otherwise, if you're gonna repair the road, you gotta have the ties out of there, because
They'd
they're probably
eventually
rubber.
rot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's ongoing, and that's something that'll happen eventually, you think, Mike?
Yes, yeah.
Good. Park Street signage.
I followed up with Ken today, and we are in the queue for the county to do a road layout survey in that area to determine whether or not
Oh,
the
yeah.
Board of Selectmen has any right-of-way there.
Good.
And so that if there's a little bit of right-of-way, then that'll give us a spot to stick a sign for the businesses on Park Street, is the thinking.
Excellent.
I did have a call from a resident. It sounded like, I won't say elderly since I are one, but an older gentleman, so, who was complaining about the sandwich board signs that were on the sidewalk down by the Needham Bank, and said he had to walk out in the street to get by them, so.
Most of them seem to be on the grass
On
area.
the grass, yeah.
They were, but I did take a walk down later on,
Some of them are on the
later
sidewalk.
on, and they were on the sidewalk.
Oh.
There were 3 of them, I believe, yeah.
I bet you they were mowing the lawn at the bank and the public.
Yeah, and they moved them
The
over.
guys moved them because they
Yeah.
were mowing, yeah. That makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's one of those areas that there's no sidewalk on Park Street. It'd probably be one of those areas that if we had a list of places that need sidewalk, that's probably one of the places
Throw
that should
one
get
in.
a sidewalk.
You may
Some
not have a
sidewalk
layout
in this
there.
summer. Throw one in on Park
Almost,
Street.
you know,
Pardon?
it's highly unlikely that there's a layout. You just have a right-of-way that's paved.
Oh, that we don't own anything beyond the pavement of the road, you're saying?
Billy McCarthy was pretty thorough. I'd like to check that out. I'm not sure. We may have one. I don't know. Let me look
I
into
mean, if you
that.
have one, that's fine, but
Maybe when the Norfolk County engineers are down there looking for,
Well, we can check the
Or
map.
corner,
We
they
have the
can-
layout plans in the highway department
oh,
downstairs.
okay.
The problem you often run into is even more than whether you have a layout is whether you can drain the property.
Oh, that's the whole problem, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
especially there's not really too much of an area. You drain it at the railroad tracks. I don't
Yeah.
think they'd be too happy about that, so
Down-
I don't know where it
downhill,
drains.
You have to
but,
go
yeah.
down,
So if you
down the
change,
street.
if you put in a sidewalk, you have to do, all of a sudden have to think about the drainage that
All new
you didn't have to think about when it
Yes,
was in its
that's
current
gonna be,
state.
that's gonna be the
State
big issue on 109, because once you put curbings in,
Is it?
or build up the street, put a crown in, the water pitches,
Yep.
and where it used to just flow off the edge of the road, now you get a curbing that traps the water.
You gotta have a drainage plan and
You
it's
gotta
all
have-
gonna be taken care of, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
approved.
Yeah. Because if you don't, it ices up in the winter and you have a traffic problem, accident problem. That's why, people think, well, why don't you just throw some asphalt and put a berm and throw some asphalt?
Mm-mm.
It's a lot more complicated than that, so.
Would have worked if you threw down the asphalt 50 years ago, maybe, huh? Next item is pending is the rail trail.
I actually put that on, Mr. Chairman. I got some calls. The Bay Colony Rail Trail has put out a video, and they're launching what they call a kickoff, and it is dealing with the stretch in Needham, where they are progressing with the rail trail, and it started today, and they're looking for additional funds. They have some funds to complete that. But the confusion with that is, if you watch the video, it includes everything from Ice House Road to Medfield, through Dover, over the trestle, and into Needham. And I had a call from the chair of the Dover Board of Selectmen, just wanting to remind that basically that plan is dead in the water in Dover.
Yeah.
They went before their town meeting, and they defeated a proposal for $50,000 for, I guess, engineering and studies such as that. And they disbanded their rail trail committee. There is a private group that is in Dover looking to see if they can raise some of those funds. But she felt that, at least in the near future, she does not see any work happening in Dover, that it's the Needham, and she was a little upset with the people at the Bay Colony Rail Trail for that video. I mean, if you pay attention, it does say that it's just for that stretch in Needham, but they show the entire
They
picture,
should.
and
Yeah.
they show pictures of Medfield and things like that, which just brought up a question, because I wasn't 100% clear. Where exactly do we stand in Medfield with that? Is there a chance that that might be back on the table in Medfield? Is that dead in the water? Is the committee still meeting? Where do we stand with the Medfield Rail Trail?
I actually spoke to Christian Donner not too long ago, and he is thinking of doing something, bringing it forward to the town meeting in the spring, a year from now, so 9 months from now, and at least doing the Medfield section of it. And he did go through the fact that Dover is not going forward. Needham is trying to go forward. Newton has already built their section. I actually took a look at it a week or so ago. You can see it where it comes out on Chestnut Street. I don't know where it comes out at the other end. I keep trying to figure out where it comes out there, and I haven't quite figured that out. But it goes down to Route 9.
So are they still meeting, and are they still looking to run from Ice House Road to the Dover line as a plan?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how actively they're meeting or not, but they're still, certainly from my discussion with Christian Donner, that he was thinking that he was going to be trying to get
To
it
the whole length, right, yeah.
happen and bring it forward to the town meeting in the spring next year. The issues are, well, the other thing that he told me was that he had walked it recently with the fellow who's the president of this Iron Horse rail group that's not quite the name of it. It's Iron Horse something or other.
Yeah.
And it's a nonprofit that will go in and for the right to salvage the iron from the rails, will give you a rail trail basically covered with stone dust. And what the man, Joe Haddam, I think is the guy's name, who's the head of that outfit, told Christian was that the most of the rails in Medfield are a heavier gauge, and so that there's more weight, more value in them, and because of that, Medfield would actually benefit. We wouldn't have to put any money into it at all, and we'd get this stone dust rail trail at no cost.
There we go.
So that's good. The other issue is the one that Mark was raising, alluding to a minute ago, which is that the MBTA contracts with you in such a way that they shed themselves of any liability for environmental issues, and the question is whether or not the town would want to buy insurance. There's insurance that you can buy. I think it's $50,000. The state actually pays for half of it, so it's a $25,000 out-of-pocket cost to the town to cover. It's a one-time payment that covers the insurance for the environmental issues. I think it's a permanent thing, but I'm not sure about that exactly.
It's some recollection, it was a 5-year policy,
Is that it?
I think, yeah.
I had some reservation that it's not a forever policy.
Yeah.
Christian said to me about the insurance that most towns that have gone forward with the rail trails have opted not to get the insurance, but they think it's such a low likelihood of any sort of issue or liability that they have opted not to get it.
Well, if you knew what the history of the rail was and what was carried,
Yep.
That's one, yeah.
you know, you might be able to make an informed judgment, having done some research into it.
Well, the guy from Iron Horse, when we met with him up on Ice House Road, I remember him saying that virtually the assumption is that every rail line in the United States is polluted.
Sure.
And that there's a convenient assumption that if you just pave over it, don't touch it, nobody will ask any questions about it.
Yeah.
I think that was raised at one of the meetings that I was going to, when I was going to the Bay Colony Rail Trail meetings. There was a multi-town group it was 4 towns. Newton, Needham, Dover, and Medfield was represented. And the MBTA people came out and spoke, and they were pretty clear that as long as you don't dig down into the rail bed, that you don't really have liability.
Well, I mean, there's two issues. There's one about that kind of thing, that you've got contaminants in the soil that you don't want to disturb. The other, more concern, even though more remote, is the potential that at some point in time there was some kind of a spill that is gone down and is going to migrate into abutting land, and that there would be liability from that. So that's where researching the history might be helpful, as opposed to the fact that they're always between the creosote on the rails and the leakage, incidental leakage perhaps from cars and all, that the soil immediately on the surface is somewhat contaminated.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd research the history, because we can't find out what's going on the trains that go through Medfield every day. You
Yeah.
don't have any ability to.
I think the only thing we
Oh,
could
yeah.
do, which I think we could, is if there were major train wrecks and
Right.
something like that, if there was spillage, something
Yeah,
like
you know
that.
about it.
We could document that, but you're right,
Right.
what was on the cars, I don't think you'd ever find out.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even want to know.
But maybe at some point, it would be nice to maybe ask the rail trail folks to come back in and see where we stand with that. Because I wasn't 100% clear when I was talking to the Dover selectmen. Okay. Thank you.
Selectmen's reports, Mark?
Not too much, just been enjoying the summertime, so it's been kind of nice to have a little break from things and stuff, so I don't really have too much to say, I think, the last week or so. So I'll turn it over to Richard, whatever.
I got several things. I went to another one of the double poll meetings with the Verizon, Comcast, and Star folks, and pleased to report that Verizon and Comcast are 99%
Yes.
remove their wires on all the double poles. So basically, their job is done. And N-Star is already off. So now it just is a question of N-Star removing the poles. They are coming to Medfield in the summer. They'll come once a week, and on an average, remove between 5 and 6 poles a day when they come
That's
in.
pretty good.
So we're down about 30 poles. So in a short period of time,
That'll be gone quick.
the one area that will be last, and they're a little bit hung up on, is the Fairview Road area. And the reason for that is they are replacing all the wires and connections on Fairview Road. When they got down there, they saw that the wires just were old. And so
Oh,
they're
yeah,
going
we
to
need that.
replace the entire street and then all the connectors that go into the house. So that's taken them just a little bit. So Fairview will be the last street. Bridge Street, which before was horrible, I think they're down to just about 2 poles now under Bridge Street. So that was good. We're going to continue. We'll meet again in September, and hopefully by then, they'll all be gone.
Great.
Really good. Very good.
I
Good
also
effort,
went,
thank you.
Thanks.
and met with this continuing to see if we can get some of the area towns around Medfield to get together every now and then to share information, equipment service and sharing, if there's things we can share on that. And I've been to Millis, Medway, Sherburne, and Walpole, and those 4 towns are very supportive and will appoint a member to that. The Westwood Board of Selectmen was a little more hesitant. The chair said, in 108 years of Westwood's history, they have not done such things. So I said, well, okay.
Is that-
But they said they would study it, they're going to relook at it, and they didn't see any harm. So maybe we will have someone from Westwood as well. And I'm just waiting, I've been in contact, I'm just waiting to go to Dover and Norfolk, which I should be able to do by the end of July, with the hopes, and I think you have there on the calendar in August for me to report on that, so I hope to have all 7 towns
Wow.
by then. So in the meantime, Medfield might want to think who a good representative would be for Medfield to be on this. I was actually thinking maybe someone from the Warren Committee might be a good representative, but we might want to give that some thought. I then attended, along with Pete, the library mission statement, vision, goals, value, draft session that they had, one of their final sessions. They've done a great job for the past year. They've been surveying the community, and they've come up with a mission statement. They're going to kind of fine-tune that and kind of look where the library's going in the next 5 years.
Those sessions were very well
Yeah.
done, I thought.
Yeah. I also had a meeting with Chief Meany and our town planner, Sarah Raposa, and 2 members of the Central Transportation Planning staff. And kudos to Chief Meany. He was able to get right in, basically a grant. In other words, he's going to secure the Central Transportation Planning that's going to come in and do a traffic study and they're gonna look at the three major intersections in Medfield, the South and Main, North and Main, and 27 in Main Street, and try to do a study and analysis of what can be done, the gridlock of traffic. And as Bob said, you know, I whined at him to let him know all the problems we're facing, you know, with the different issues of traffic. So, and especially, he's very worried about when Brothers Marketplace opens. I think they're gonna do very well, and I think it's a good thing they're opening in the summer when we have a lot less traffic, and that probably will pick up a great deal in September. But as people go in there and then try to come back out onto 109 from South Street, that is gonna be an issue. So they're gonna be working on that over the summer, and they'll get back to the chief with some recommendations at no cost to the town. So that was good.
Great.
The other thing, we listed our goals, but I don't think we've ever actually got all three of the goals together to come up with our goals for the year. And the other thing, it would be nice if we actually looked at the goals from last year and just kind of went over and said, you know, did we meet them, did we not meet them?
Absolutely.
If we could do that, I don't know
I
how
think
you
that's-
wanted.
I think that was on our schedule for our next meeting.
Good.
No, well, is that an updated one? No, the next meeting, we have a cast of thousands here. Aesthetics Downtown, Dwight Derby, Historical, Memo, Signboard. The goals, I think, were supposed to be
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's
back
not there.
earlier there. But maybe we
Well,
can work
we
that
should.
in, maybe the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Which is, like, today, if we're following, today we're supposed to have State Hospital redevelopment and Medfield Energy.
Yeah, they haven't had their first meeting yet, I understand, so they'll
Yeah,
probably
so wait
try
for
to get
that.
them in when they,
Did we notify
their feet under them.
all the members?
I think
Yes,
we've got
Steve
a hold
Nolan
of
has
everybody. Now, there's
notification,
one
and
we
all the
had
members
trouble
were
with,
notified as
yeah.
well.
And they were all fine with that?
Mhm.
Great.
Yep,
You're
and
looking
Steve
at
will
it-
call the first meeting after the 4th of July.
You're looking at a different version of the calendar than I'm looking at it.
That's the one Mike gave me.
Because see, for July 15, I had the, in a review of selectmen's and town administrators' goals.
This one, he has aesthetics downtown. Is it different? Is this the new one?
That's the way the one I had made, there may have been some revisions to it that were made
Yeah,
after.
okay. Can you maybe circulate a copy of, might be a good idea to put a date on it when it's done, too.
But
so
maybe
that
we
know.
should, we haven't done the goals, maybe we should add that in.
Yeah, we need to go over those goals, certainly.
And do you want me to try, as I did last time, to mesh the three together, and you can look at that?
Yeah.
Sure, that was very helpful.
That'd be great, thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
And then, just a couple of things on my walk there. I mentioned before, can we just check, I think you were checking to see if it was Columbia Gas. We have the cement sidewalks, but in front of Zebras, it's tarred, and you thought maybe it was Columbia Gas that did that. And also in front of 34 South Street, it's the same thing. So it might be a gas connection. And if that's the case, are they responsible for putting the cement back in if they took it out?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
talk to Ken.
Okay.
What they try to do, and it doesn't always work out, but they try to wait till there's 4 or 5, and they can do them all at once,
Okay.
so,
Well, could we just check and then make sure that, sometimes they forget also.
yeah.
And then I noticed on Elm Street, I guess there was an accident there not too long ago, right on the bend on Elm Street, just before Millbrook, there's a sharp bend, there's a fire hydrant right there that I guess has been hit a number of times. And they put a, I call
Bollard,
it a
yeah.
safety pole right in front of it.
Right.
That was wiped out, they've replaced the hydrant.
Yeah.
Just make sure that, I don't know who does that.
I believe Highway did that, but I'll check on,
Yeah, because I'm sure someone's gonna hit that hydrant again, and the pole really protects it.
it happens all the time. It's
Yeah.
very, especially in the winter when it's
Yeah.
slippery
I
there.
mean, that,
yeah,
like,
people- yeah.
once a year, that thing gets
Yeah.
hit. And then, the other thing is, our town pound is totally overgrown. I mean, just totally overgrown, you can't even see it anymore with bushes. We do have a keeper of the pound, and that's Jenny Shaw Cronin, and I'm sure it's because she's the animal control officer, and her job is not to take care of the pound.
Yeah.
But I had a couple calls with a couple of people in town that would be willing to try to upkeep that. If we could get maybe Bobby Kenny and the highway to go in with some weed whackers and wipe out all that brush that's there, maybe I can send those people to Jenny and see if they can work with her. It's not a lot, I mean, it's not a big area, but, you know, the paint could be redone and the weeds taken out there. Right now, it's just totally overgrown, you can't even see it.
Yeah, I'm going to make another suggestion, which may be somewhat controversial, but that tree, I think, is in its last days, and
It's terrible.
I was wondering if there wasn't some way you could get an acorn or something. They call them scions. If you grow a tree from the original tree, you know, you get a cutting or an acorn or something and grow it, and because eventually if it doesn't have to be taken down, it's going to fall down.
It is, and there's another tree actually growing out of that
Oh, yeah?
tree.
Yeah, and if you could somehow,
There may be another tree started in the area.
it just.
Yeah, you don't know, there could be.
It may be. Maybe we could get Eddie Hinckley or Mike Leaders or somebody to take a look and see if there's some way that historically we could get a descendant of that tree planted there. I think
Well,
because
maybe we could try this in with Arbor Day in the Tree City too, but it'd be
Yeah.
nice if, because that's the official bicentennial tree as well.
Yeah.
If they do take that down, it would be nice if they could cut that, you know how they have the rings, and then you
Yeah.
can place, because that's pretty old, and you can place on each ring, you know,
what
the
happens.
history,
Declaration of
we could do Medfield
Independence
history,
signed,
go all the
and we
way
can
back.
put that in the pound, and there's probably room for only about 2 cars to park there. That's kind of a busy spot. But it'd be nice if we could fix the pound up. You know, it has a lot of history to it. It's
Yep.
the 3rd pound in Medfield's history, the 3rd location of that. Maybe Bobby Kennedy and the highway, and in the meantime, if you want, I'll get a hold of Jenny and see if she wants to meet with those 2 neighbors that would be willing to kind of
Sure.
help upkeep it once it's
That'd be
in
great.
good shape.
Excellent.
And the other thing, I received some notification that we had a lot of concern, I know, Mike, you were concerned about this as well, on the cell tower legislation that went through the House that basically
Yes.
strips the local communities with any authority whatsoever to control. My understanding is that is not on any of the Senate legislation.
Correct.
But it is on the House, so now they'll go into a joint committee. And it could stay, it could come out.
Yeah, I think that we got a notice from MMA today asking us to contact our legislators to try to keep it out of the combined version.
I know Senator Timothy has come out against that, he's been very good.
Yes,
with that.
yeah. And I believe Representative Dooley
He
said that
was
he voted
also
against
against
it,
that
yes.
as well.
And I talked to Representative Garlick, and she, by the time she found out it was in there, it had already passed the House, so one of those things that gets slipped in the midnight
Yeah,
sessions.
how you gonna know? It's so hard to keep up with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff's
Well,
flying
they
around.
rush through.
Well, they do everything at the last minute, of course. But that's how you get all the little special things done.
Yeah, and there's 50 pages of
Yeah,
things,
just,
and
yeah,
you gotta
it's-
vote on it after looking at it for 4 minutes.
It's all like.
Not that we'll complain if they do that for the state hospital.
That's right.
That would be totally fine.
All right, that's right. Maybe I better backtrack. Wait till that passes first. And then the last thing, if we could eventually begin to get some of the minutes back in. I don't think we've had them for quite a while.
Oh, okay, I'll check with Evelyn, will be back next meeting, so we'll
And that's all, Mr.
better get
Chairman.
it going.
Thank you very much. I will mention just the Energy Committee meeting that I went to, and they're moving forward with that grant on studying the possible solar sites in town. They're looking at, I think it's 3, the wastewater treatment plant, is it the roof of the garage, the highway garage, Mike, and then
The old
top of
landfill.
the old landfill.
Yeah, they're meeting Monday, it's 7:30 here.
7:30
Monday
at
night.
night here?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's right, they have the people, the solar design associate people coming to
Yeah.
to talk to them, which is the people they hired with their grant money that Fred Davis got for the town. Lyme Disease Committee meeting, they're just pretty much on a constant track to replicate what they've done in the past couple of years. They're just fine tuning the issues with the hunting to make the hunting work better for the individuals that participate and for the property owners. I went to a meeting that's, I guess the Mass Municipal Association has this, and I'm not quite sure what it's called. It's, the initials are MMEG, so I think it's like something like Massachusetts Municipal Energy Group or something. And they've got like a listserv for if you sign up for it. But I went to this meeting about how to save on electric rates, held down at the Attleboro City Hall last week. Nice city hall, brand new, looks very new city hall. The councilors sit in like a it's like a horseshoe shaped type of thing. What I really liked, well, that was all very nice and it was all built in, but they had this. They were showing slides, and they had this presentation smart board that was like 4 by 8 feet. It was just humongous.
Is that what they have in the schools, what they call the whiteboards?
Well, this was different than that. This was, I mean, this was like a video screen that was on huge supports and rollers, and although the image that they were showing didn't fill the 4 by 8, I didn't quite understand what was wrong with that. I would have appreciated a bigger image myself. But the takeaways from that was that there's a load response program where the utilities will pay users to reduce our use during times of high demand. So that if you sign up for this, I gather that you can save money by not using the air conditioner on the hottest days of the year type of thing.
We used to do that about 20.
I will have a revolt on my hands.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, there's no point, why bother to have air conditioning? Just
We
get rid of
used
the
to-
air conditioning.
On the hot days, you can have people work at night instead of during the day, maybe.
Siesta time. Yeah. We used to
Yeah.
do that about 20 years ago with our treatment plant.
Yeah.
If you...
Store it until you...
No, you would have a contract. You had a contract with Boston Edison at
Sure.
the time, and they would notify you when the demand load got a certain point,
Right.
and you would switch, the treatment plant would switch to generator power.
Okay, I see what you mean, yeah,
And then they would send you a check
yeah.
for relieving them of the load.
Load,
And
yeah.
that's how, then they did a,
I don't want to go there.
oh man.
So maybe that goes to the next thing a little bit, Mike. There's a capacity charge built into our electric rates, and apparently part of the capacity
yeah.
charge, this is beyond my understanding and interest. Yes, it's beyond my level of interest in electricity usage. But apparently, part of the capacity charge is based on the highest hour of usage in the year.
I think it's as high as 15 minutes.
And so that if you can lower your usage during that 1 hour when they're
Figure it
figuring the
out.
capacity charge, and they said the capacity charge is like 25% to 30% of your total bill. So that,
Some cases I've seen it 50%. And it really, I try to do that, I run around turning out lights in the daytime here, and, you try to schedule when you're using the copy, shut the copy machine off when you're not using it, but they get you. It's either 15 minutes or a half an hour. It's called the demand charge.
this was Constellation Energy that was putting this program on, and they say that they call their customers if you're signed up for this, well, I don't know, maybe they just call all their customers.
No, because they have no. It could be any time. It can be, if it gets particularly muggy,
You just have to figure out when the peak
Yeah.
demand of the year is.
Might have been
Well,
today
it's-
at 4
it's-
o'clock during the USA World Cup game.
I found that was being streamed online.
Yes, it was.
It's each month the demand charge is recalculated. So it's not a year. It's every billing period.
Oh, well, they said it was every year, that it was, ISO figures it based on that 1 hour
Yeah.
peak usage during the year. Last year, they said it was July 19. So it's coming up.
Could have been, yeah.
So that's just another way that, I guess, basically, they were suggesting that they sell what they call layered flex plans, so that and I guess the idea is that it's like dollar cost averaging or something, so that not all your all your monies at one rate. Because the final thing about the capacity charge was that they had a chart showing what the capacity charges are going to be, and the capacity charges, like 2 or 3 years out, were going to double. They're going to get huge, and so I don't know the details of that, but that's just the major sort of takeaway from the material here.
One of the major reasons is they're shutting down all the fossil fuel
All the coal plants.
They're
be
shutting down.
expensive.
Salem has already shut down.
Yep.
Yeah,
There's a Montauk plant that shut down.
yeah,
There's another plant called Brayton Point
yep.
that's scheduled to shut down in 2016 or 17. And when that goes, there isn't adequate pipeline capacity into New England to provide the natural gas
Right.
for all the demands. So there's a big concern. Now, there is some effort to replace it with hydro from Canada or wind power. And the trouble with wind power and solar power is it's intermittent. It's not a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week
Oh.
power. It only works when the wind blows or the sun shines. So
Yeah, just a bit.
Hydro from Canada is met with significant resistance.
Oh, yeah, for
There's also a
the
plan to
transmission
bring,
lines
the
coming
gas
up.
line from Texas up here, I read about that.
significant resistance across central Mass.
They actually had charts showing there's a plan, I think it's not from Texas so much as it's actually, they showed the
From New
points.
York, I think.
There's something
Yeah.
like Albany or something that cuts across
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
If you take a look in there, you'll see there's a map, and it was going to go across the
Yeah.
northern tier of Massachusetts, the
The-
southern tier of New Hampshire.
The ironic thing is in Medfield, we have 2 pipelines already. One that hasn't been used in 10 years, that was a Shell oil pipeline, but the other is up by the state hospital, is the
Algonquin.
Algonquin, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that thing,
So, and then the final thing that I took away was this thing called government aggregation, and again, I didn't really understand this real well, but it sounds like the town issues an RFP to provide electricity to the residents in town, and then the residents can opt out of, it's like a group purchasing, but for the residents, it sounded like.
we started to look into that. I was at a meeting of town administrators, and some of them were looking into it, and I don't know if anyone's done it, but there are some serious concerns. Is the cities and towns prepared to become a bill collector? Is what happens when somebody doesn't pay their electricity bill or their gas bill?
Right.
Who collects it? And is the state going to give the cities and towns the authority to place a lien on the property?
Property for
And what if they're a renter, if they're not an owner of the property? How do you get that money? So I think it's fraught with peril.
I think
there's some-
Marlborough was one of the first cities that entered the agreement and have since pulled out of the agreement and
Didn't like it,
canceled.
huh?
The people that are actually behind it, right?
Yeah.
Initiative, because we
Yeah.
had a presentation in Franklin. It was like, why are you wildly hopscotching from your nearest communities
Yeah.
participating? You come all the way to Franklin. We really didn't have a clear answer for it.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look it up, but I know that Marlborough signed an agreement, got into the agreement, and
Savings was
Didn't
not
like
that.
it.
savings was not there, and residents were very angry at having the city choose their supplier, and they did cancel the agreement. But I'd have to go back and look. It was probably about a year and a half ago.
I'll pass all this stuff on to the
Yeah.
Energy
Yeah.
Committee and let them deal with it. Then the last thing that I've been dealing with is Bob Hertzzuber's communication tool that he's created, that he's looking to implement with the town, and he's working with the library to have them be the town contact for it. He's got a very nice engine. I guess he calls it an engine. It's like some sort of software.
Is that what they used to
thing
call a
that-
search engine?
Well, his isn't a
He used
search
to-
engine, but
But,
Well, he'd done something like this at a college too, or something, correct?
he works at Boston College, and
Yeah,
he'd created it there for the
Yeah.
students with regard to the, it was with the arts, so that all the information on the arts got filtered to the 5,500 students through this tool.
He thought that was very successful.
Yeah,
Yeah, the library director has assigned Matt, I think, one of the new staff over there, to work
Alex
about
Land.
half-time on it. So
Alex Land.
I don't know how it'll work out during the transition to a new library director, but I know.
I don't
they're
know. I know
moving.
that Owen, who's the head of our IT, wants to talk to them to make sure they're staying with Massachusetts retention regulations in terms of emails and communications that go out.
Yeah.
That all has to be saved.
The other aspect, I just had an email from the library director. That was really the first I had seen of it, but the starting point is that you're somewhat restricted in so-called public-private partnerships. There's all kinds of legal obstacles to performing them, so you really need to look at the total picture here and see what's involved, and if there's compensation floating around somewhere. There seemed to be some suggestion that there was going to be advertising on this site.
I think that he has advertising available in a limited way to generate monies that he then, he wants to target the most of the revenue that gets created for either technology at the schools or the library. But I think it sounds like a very interesting possibility, so. And
Yeah,
that's-
I think there are a lot of things coming down the road, but and you do have to be careful, watch out which ones you go for and which ones you don't, because.
Oh, yeah, because you can invest a lot of time in something that's not very useful
Yeah.
or doesn't work out well. And then on the informational things, Mike or Chris, anything there that you guys want to highlight for people?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. First of all, I want to wish you all a Happy New Year. Today's the
Fiscal
start of
year.
our new fiscal year, fiscal
that's
15.
How are we doing so far?
Well, we
Quite flush.
survived, we survived fiscal 14. I guess that's about the most we can
Lots
say.
of
so
Good, we're
far.
survivors, huh?
Yes. Meeting next week on Ice House Road, Lot 3. That's Thursday, July 10th, the Economic Development Committee.
Good.
Is that here or downstairs? Do you know, Chris?
I don't know which room they're in, but
Germination.
my guess would be the warrant committee room. In fact, yes, it's the warrant committee room, because I
The
did
warrant
double
committee.
check that. It is.
Okay, we had a letter of resignation from Police Officer James O'Neill. Jim's been with us for 6 years.
Yeah.
He's been accepted by the,
He was a police officer for 6 years. He was my intern prior to that.
that's right, yeah, he started when he was about 15, I think, didn't he? But he is going with the,
Department of Justice.
one of
Drug
those
enforcement?
initials,
DEA.
DEA, yeah.
Big time.
So he's starting out for 4 months training at Quantico and
Excellent.
then goes to wherever they send him, so he'll be.
With those jackets with that big DEA in the back.
That will be him.
the Yellow thing.
Was been a good police officer.
Good for him. That's great.
Well, it's a loss for the town, but I'm sure it's a good opportunity for him.
Fantastic opportunity.
He's
One he's been waiting a while for.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's
Good.
been shooting for this for a couple of, since he came on the force, he
But-
always had FBI or
Yeah.
one of these federal
Excellent.
agencies, so. Norfolk County Agricultural School sent their enrollment figures. We have, I believe, currently 4 enrollees next year.
Yeah.
And I gave a copy of that to the superintendent. I don't know if you recall last year, the principal or superintendent down there sent the member towns, a $2,000 assessment per student over and above what you pay as part of the county tax. And,
Yeah.
school department, I believe, refused to pay it, so they didn't feel it was, I think they already spent quite a bit more than the Medfield schools, so.
Are these numbers up or down or steady?
I think it's down a little.
It's down. I
we
think
had
it's
about
six
6 or
or
7
seven last
at
year.
one point, so.
Yeah,
it's
sounds
down
about
a little.
right. Yeah.
And how many do we have at Tri-County?
I think we have around 11, isn't it? I think 9 to 11, somewhere in that range.
Mhm.
So, incidentally, we pay more for a student at Tri-County because we have a higher per capita income. They apply the education reform funding formula to calculate the assessments,
Oh,
which, there was an agreement between the towns when the schools were originally built as to how the cost would be apportioned.
yeah.
But once the education reform funding came in, they went to court, and the courts ruled that even though there were contracts in place to determine the assessments, the education reform funding law overruled those
Ruled the
contracts.
contracts,
So
sure.
So I bet we pay more at Tri-County than we pay in Medfield then per pupil.
you would anyway. The basic per student cost, I think, is around 15,000 or something. It's quite a bit higher than
Not bad,
Medfield.
sure.
Yeah.
50,000?
Yes, 15.
Oh, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the vocational schools, I think, are more
More
expensive. In part,
expensive.
the transportation Well, I guess that's figured, but they do have higher transportation costs because they're coming from longer distances. They do have technical, they have equipment, they have shops, and
Sure. This stuff's expensive, sure.
Isn't the per pupil expense at the Aggie School lower than ours?
I doubt it.
Oh, okay.
They have farm, they have equestrian programs and
Yeah.
landscaping programs, and some of those are fairly expensive, so
Yeah.
I think they're probably higher. Okay, you got the Board of Appeals and Conservation Commission information. Historical Commission, they've issued a demo delay on 70 North Street. That's the former Kinsman House.
Oh, yeah.
Right next to the Rockland Trust
I
and
hope,
my office.
that was developer Bob Burley. I hope they can work something out so that he can either incorporate that. It would be a shame, that house dates back to the American Revolution.
Is that right? Wow.
And there's actually, it's structural, I went through the house with a structural engineer and a developer, and structurally, it's very sound. It would be a shame, because that's kind of the entrance into Medfield Center, that's right there. It's the last of the kind of residential homes that's right there. So I hope, they put the 18-month demolition delay on. I hope the Historical Commission and Mr. Borelli can work something out. I don't know.
Doesn't lend itself to a business use, unfortunately. I don't think.
Pretty
so.
tiny lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the rooms are small.
Whole thing's tiny, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was they lost in the bid. There was a family that wanted to actually renovate and live there, and they lost out on the bidding, but.
96 North Street, I believe that's where the condo project has been approved. They're going to get permission to tear down at least
Yeah.
one of the houses, maybe two, so.
Yeah.
There are two houses that are owned together there, aren't there, that are in that project? And this isn't the big two-family
No.
one, is it?
No, I think it says a small blue one next to it, I think.
Sits back.
Yeah,
Yep.
in the
Yeah.
back, yeah.
How many units are they looking to put in there, do you know?
I
Or
believe
11.
10. I believe they've been approved for 10, and I think that's what they're proposing to put, although they may need some waivers on the percentage of lot coverage and whatnot for that, so I don't know.
for a while.
It was under a previous
Yes.
developer, wasn't it?
Well, they actually,
Well, it's a sub, yeah.
expired and had to go back in and do it over again, so.
But now I think, under the, this legislation that passed at the state level, they've extended all permits for
4 years.
4 years, I believe. So if you took out a building permit or had a subdivision approval,
Get 4 years?
the state extended automatically for 4 years.
So even though it's different owners that can sell it, you still can carry that
Yeah.
permit with you?
Yeah.
If it wasn't restricted to a particular applicant, and I don't believe it was, but she was looking to flip it from the get-go.
Yeah, see, there's zoning by right. I mean, it's already zoned for multifamily, so.
Yeah, sure.
But there are other factors that come in, if they need waivers, or if they, they can sometimes get concessions. Part of the problem, I think, today is when the zoning was put in place, it was assumed that these units would be, 900, 1,200 square feet. And now they're coming in with 2,000 square foot
Sure.
condos, and they just dominate the whole site, and
Yep. they
it
do.
becomes a problem, so.
Also, incidentally, it was not on the agenda, but for your information, if you want to talk about it in more detail in some other meeting, but there has been an appeal of the Clock Tavern decision by abutters, so it's pending the land court. It's basically up to the developer, the applicant, to defend the decision. But I did speak to the attorney for the developer today.
Do we know how many people appealed?
4 or 5?
Four.
Yeah, 4, I think. There's just a handful of the other ones.
Okay, and just noticed from Columbia Gas about being careful around construction projects.
Yeah, so they tend to ramp up their projects during the summer, so please just slow down in work zones.
And then the other one, you talked about the good neighbor policy notices went
Yeah.
out.
And there's an example of the second letter that will go out when there is water shut-off
Saw that.
issue, so
Great.
that is in there.
Thank you.
Incidentally, speaking of the water main project up on Hospital Road, I spoke to Ken today, and he was concerned about how that might affect the stone seal program or chip seal program, because several of the streets up there were scheduled to be chip sealed, and if you're going to have construction equipment turning around on the roads, and they can do some damage, so he might want to delay some of the work on some of these streets until the water main project is further along. So, and that's it, I guess.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, just real quick, because I'm, next week, are we sticking to the schedule here that we're having these different boards on the 15th or other?
I think we put it down because there were so many boards, and this time of year, it's a little difficult with vacation schedules, so we wanted to see which one will work best to get the
Okay.
most boards.
And then what, the rest of them would
Notify
come
all.
August 5th? Is that why you have it like that?
No, I thought we'd try to get as many as we could come in on the same date. If they can come in the next meeting, fine. If they
Okay,
can't, and
okay.
more can come in. If there are any left over, we can have them come in at the other date. I think it'd be nice if we could get the hospital committee to come in at one of those meetings once they've met and sort of had a little feel for the
Sure.
direction, and they'd probably want to come in and talk to you.
So we do have the review of the selectmen's and town administrators' goals and evaluation of the town administrator at our next meeting, so that,
And then we've missed the energy, we're supposed to be this one.
well, that's June 17.
That's June 17.
yeah, all right, so that we need to roll that forward then to our next meeting.
And the other one
probably.
we missed when we had Buchanan, we're supposed to have the tree warden, if we could reschedule him as well.
So do we want to do the selectmen and town administrator goals at our next meeting and the evaluation
Sure,
of Mike?
that's fine.
And we have to each complete that form that Chris provided to us about our evaluation of.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And with that, I think we're done, right?
Excellent, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I believe it's in there, yeah. Do you have
Second.
the, deed?
All in favor? Aye.
Should be.
Is that the deed?
Need
Motion
to
to
take that
adjourn
to
at 8:20?
Yeah.
Yes.
There are two deeds.
Is that the one you have to, you have to notarize it? Aren't you gonna ask for?
What, the two copies?
Now, when I sign for a notary, she always asks for identification. Do you know who these guys are?
I think so. They're all sitting up there, I'm guessing they're selected.
We have our name tags.
Personal knowledge is
You can use it.
In fact, you know,
Hi, I'm Jeff Marsden, and you're watching Medfield.tv.